Hello, folks. Welcome to another edition of the Big Three NBA podcast. I am Sherrod Blakely, joined by the one and only Gary Washburn of the Boston Globe. What's going on, G?
What's up, man? How's it going? Everything all right?
On a Sunday. Look, man, it's weird that we are talking, but we're not going to be talking about any games involving the Celtics. I can't remember. It's been a minute since this time of year we didn't hit Memorial Day talking about a Celtics game.
Yeah.
Is it weird? Is it weird? I mean, it feels weird for me. I don't know. How does it feel? Is it weird for you too?
Yeah, it's just strange to be watching the conference finals and not having the Celtics involved. And, you know, now they're just like all the other, 26 teams that are just trying to prepare for next season and get ready for the draft. And it's weird, but here we are. And we kind of saw this coming, maybe not this year, but something they've got to address. So time to take care of business.
Yeah, and we'll have all summer to look at all the different layers that they're going to have to address in some capacity, certainly short and long term. But before we get started, I just want to remind folks that they're listening to the Big Three NBA podcast, part of the CLNS Media Network, which is where you will find us, the Big Three NBA podcast, past and present, in addition to a ton of other Celtics content throughout the summer and offseason, and obviously leading into next season. So if you are into the Boston Celtics and that is what you want from a content standpoint, CLNS Media has you covered and then some. Garrett, before I want us to just kind of jump into not a whole lot happening from the news standpoint with the Celtics, but one thing that went down the other day was Jaylen Brown had a pop-up over the weekend, pop-up store, and he was talking, he was unveiling his new 741 white noise sneakers, which actually look kind of hot. I kind of like them. But our good friend of the program, Malcolm Johnson of NBC Boston, had a chance to catch up with Jaylen. They talked for a few minutes, and in that story, you can find that story on NBC Boston now. But the one thing that they talked about, Gary, and I wanted us to kind of get into it a little bit, Jaylen was talking about next season from the context of taking matters into his own hands. When you think about that, and you think about Jaylen's game, how do you see that playing out in actual real time? This is what we're going to see from Jaylen Brown next season.
Well, I see a player who's going to mature. I see a player who's going to be more of a playmaker. I see a player who's going to take more responsibility on his shoulders for the fate of the team, and as he should, being a guy who's making $304 million a year. And throughout his contract, $304 million contract over 5 years, a man who has won NBA Finals MVP and Eastern Conference Finals MVP, he should take more responsibility. I don't think that reflects in, okay, I'm just going to be that guy who's tries to score 40 points a game and puts up all these big numbers and does a little too much. I think that means he's got to sharpen his all-around skill set to become more of a playmaker, facilitator, distributor, but also a scorer, rebounder. To me, that means improving in all facets of your game and, quite honestly, being ready for that challenge and to uplift the team when they're missing their best player in Jayson Tatum.
Yeah, the one thing about Jaylen, and you've been around here as long as I have as far as watching his growth and just development, and he typically comes back almost every year with something that he is doing better than he did the previous year. And you have to wonder, though, at some point, when you continue to evolve and improve and get better, when are you going to hit that ceiling? When are you going to hit that point where you have improved on all facets of your game to a point where you're not going to get any better than where you are now? And where Jaylen is now, I think is very fair to say that he is a top 20, top 25 player in the NBA. There just isn't a ton of room for him to grow in terms of his stature in the league. But this season is a golden opportunity for him to, frankly, be the player that you would expect someone taken with the third overall pick in their respective draft class could be. Jayson Tatum, they have worked great in tandem throughout the course of Jaylen's career, but this is an opportunity where he can just basically be the captain of the ship, and he can be that guy. And I just wonder how much of his game is going to improve over the summer that will allow him to be that guy, to be impactful, and still show the kind of growth that we have seen, over and over and over again from him. Because again, the big areas that we've talked about this in the past, and I don't think it's going to change, is his ball handling. It seems to be that one area that he just hasn't quite made the kind of growth that, frankly, you would want from your best player. I'm more concerned about his ability as a playmaker than his ball handling, because if he has the handles that he has now, but he becomes a much better playmaker, we're good. The Celtics are going to be really good. But I don't know if that's going to be the case, because I just don't know if that part of his game is going to necessarily grow appreciably now that he's going to get that opportunity, and now that he has the summer to have more time this summer than he's used to work on that.
Well, I think first he's got to get healthy with the knee, and I think secondly, I think the ball handling is extremely important, because it'll allow him to get into spots in the areas that generally right now he's not getting into, or when he gets into there, he's getting the ball stripped or knocked away, or he's turning the ball over. I think the ball handling is probably an essential asset. To me, I think the two things he needs to improve on is his three-point shooting and his ball handling. Three-point shooting, he shot 32.4%, I want to say, this year. Not good, below average. Not a good shooting year for Jaylen. Jaylen needs to get up to 36, 37%. I don't count on him getting up to 40 or anything like that, where the elite shooters are. But 36, 37%, I think that does wonders for this team in terms of him being a real threat, not a streaky threat. I think we all look at Jaylen as a shooter that can knock him down on occasion and can get on a heater, but other than that, his three-point shot is not reliable, and you want him to be more reliable from beyond the arc. You also want him to be able to handle the ball better in traffic, not have people just not be able to easily knock the ball away from him. I think that's been a major weakness in his game, and I think he has the ability to pass the ball. We saw in Game 5 the Eastern Conference Semis where he had 12 assists. He has the ability to be a playmaker, but I just think those little things make him, because I think there's room for growth with Jaylen. I think he can become a top 10 player if he really, really works at it. He's got the athleticism. He's got the desire. It's just those little things, that consistency, especially from, and I think one thing that we did not give him credit for that he improved at throughout this year, throughout the playoffs, was his free throw shooting. 80+% from the free throw line. He was not a great reliable free throw shooter where when he stepped to the line it was going to be 2 points. It was always is he going to split it? Is he going to miss the first, make the second? How is this going to go? It was always kind of an adventure in the last few years, but this year he was very much more steady and more reliable from the free throw line. So he just has to add little things to his game. I don't think you could ever stop improving. Now, can you lose athleticism? Of course. Or the athleticism stop? Yes. But you become a craftier player. You become better at drawing fouls, better at getting over screens, better at the mind of the game. And I think that's what Jaylen can grow at, but I also think there's a three-point shooting and the ball handling that can take him to another level. And I think he's capable of that. It's just a matter of the off-season work, and he puts in the off-season work and just being more consistent. And is that maybe changing his release or changing the fundamentals on his shot? What it might be, maybe changing a coach here or there, adding a new offensive coach, a new skills guy who can maybe help him a little bit more to get to that next level. But I think he's capable.
Yeah, and the big thing, Gary, that you pointed out, I think it can't be, stated enough. It's just consistency. He is, as you pointed out, he has shown glimpses of being this all-around, complete player that he certainly wants to be, and certainly the Celtics will need. But there's too many moments where he reminds you of what his shortcomings are, and I think at times have a tendency to overwhelm, or at least make up more of the conversation about Jaylen Brown than it should be. I mean, I love Jaylen Brown and everything he does as a player, but man, he sometimes get what I call A1-itis, where he thinks he's like part of the A1, that and one tour where he's just trying to break everybody down. And it's like, bruh, this dude is like 6'2", and you 6'6". Just raise up over that fool. Or this dude is not strong as you. Back his little butt down on the block and score over top of him. To me, it just seems that sometimes he makes too much of an effort to show that I'm a better ball handler now. When in fact, he just needs to just do what he do and just get this bucket and keep it moving. I worry about him with no Jayson Tatum around, leaning more into that part of who he is than he normally would. Because when he's out there with Tatum, his thinking has to be to some extent, I need to do what I do because JT gonna do what he do. I'm hoping the thing that you pointed out, that I'm hoping he really does a better job. And I think, frankly, it might be the most important thing he does in the offseason is become a better thinker of the game, because he just doesn't have the luxury of just being pretty good and expect his team to be great. Because you got Jayson Tatum, you got a guy who can basically roll out of bed and get you 25, 6, and 5 every night. You don't have that. So for them to be successful, Jaylen really has to be a smarter thinker of the game. And it's not a question of whether he can do it, because we know his intelligence. It kind of goes without saying. He's a very smart, high basketball IQ type of guy. But you have to wonder whether this new look Celtics, and that's assuming that he's going to be here, which, again, that is among the many things that's not a given. But if he is he going to be able to have the kind of consistency with his game that he's going to need for this team to be great? And speaking of being great, shout out to Jayson Tatum, who for once, we're talking about him in the news, and it's a positive. He's obviously after the Achilles injury, not a lot of happy joy moments for Jayson Tatum. But he did get some good news recently when he was named first team All-NBA for the 4th time. Just a handful of Celtics can lay claim to have been so honored. Obviously, most people, when they think about Tatum, particularly this season, they think about how things ended. But from your perspective, Gary, what do you take away from Jayson Tatum's season this year, outside of the injury, obviously, but just like when you think about his growth this year, what jumps out to you about Jayson?
I just think he got pretty much better in all facets of the game. The only thing that he didn't take a leap at was a three-point shooting. But I feel it's a real testament to his talent that he was a unanimous first team. All 100 voters voted for him first team, not second team. It wasn't like he got, I think Donovan Mitchell might have gotten 67 first place votes and 33 of the other 4, which was SGA, Jokic, Giannis, and Tatum, all got 100%. And I just think he is obviously now a top 5 player. And you really think about it, top 4 player, right? Now you could maybe throw Anthony Edwards in there. You could throw Donovan Mitchell in there. There's other guys, guys who are emerging like a Cade Cunningham or some of the old school, old hall guys, the Currys, LeBrons, or maybe even a Kevin Durant here and there. But Jayson is a top 4 player, and his goal, his assignment when he returns is to get to that top 1 or 2, to be an MVP candidate, legitimate MVP candidate. And that means not only putting up the numbers, but also carrying your team to great things. I mean, he's already done the carrying your team to great things. Now it's time for him to put together that perfect classic season. And I just think that we're still waiting, and it's still capable of putting together one of those amazing seasons of the ages. And we're going to probably obviously have to wait till 26, 27 at least for that to happen. But to me, I just think he took a step forward this year in all the facets of the game. And now it's pretty much established that he is a top 5 player. First, people would say, oh, he's not a top 5 player. Oh, he's only maybe top 10. Oh, he's number 8. Oh, he doesn't do this. And Jayson is one of the more criticized superstars in our game. You just don't hear some of the criticism from guys like Edwards or guys like Donovan Mitchell. You just don't hear their games being nitpicked and broken down. But with Jayson, it has been. And I think he's withstood that criticism, and move forward. And it's become almost the complete player. I said the only thing that separates him is a three-point shooting. If he could get up to his previous career forms of a 38%, if he could be that guy that could just like, man, knock down the three when it's open, then to me, I think he'll be a top 1 or 2 player. And you're looking for that season that he can be an MVP candidate.
Yeah, I mean, he starts doing that, he becomes unstoppable because then all of a sudden you got a guy that can kill you with the mid-range, can finish at the rim, strong enough now to finish at the rim, can play with his back to the basket, can do the baseline action, and is a solid defender. And he becomes a legitimate MVP candidate because as much as he's shown the ability to score and score in bunches now, just imagine if he could shoot a few percentage points higher from three-point range. Now, all of a sudden, he becomes, instead of a mid to high 20-point scorer, he becomes a low to mid 30-point scorer. And on a team that more likely than not is going to be in the conversation as one of the last teams standing when all is said and done. So there's definitely that potential for him if he does make that particular growth spurt, that improvement in this basically redshirt season that he's going to be enduring as he heals from this Achilles. He's going to be a phenomenal player. But the one thing, Gary, I did want to get your thoughts on is the Achilles injury. Obviously, when you look at guys who've had that injury in the NBA, Kevin Durant is probably the poster child for this is what this injury looks like when you make a full, strong, positive recovery. But what part of Jayson's game are you most concerned with that may not necessarily come back at the level it was pre-Achilles injury?
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe that first step, being able to really, really take somebody off the dribble and get to the rim and use as his size and athleticism. You're worried about that. You're worried about the quickness. You're worried about that because that first step for a lot of guys in this league is everything. And so if he loses a half a step or a quarter of a step of that first step, that's what I'm concerned about. That means he's just going to have to be a different, craftier player. The great ones show how great they are when they age. If you look at Michael Jordan, 1996 was not Michael Jordan 1986 or 1987, right? He was a different player. He learned how to shoot the mid-range better. He was more of a guy who got to the free throw line. There was times, he would still dunk on you and get, LeBron James at age 36 was not the same as LeBron at age 26. What I noticed, LeBron became a better finisher at the rim. We learned how to use the glass more. He wasn't always, okay, I got to dunk you in through the basket. He was I'm just trying to finish this, get this layup in, get this shot up. He became a better mid-range shooter. Like, that's what Jayson is going to have to do, because now you can really kind of say it. This is now the second half of his career. Like, he's put in 8 years. He's done 8. Okay. You assume, okay, is he going to play 16? That's a lot of years in this league, right? So you got to think Jayson is on the back nine. I'm not talking about that downside. I'm talking about on the second half of his career. And you can probably draw the line when it comes to the Achilles tear, before the Achilles tear, after the Achilles tear. So Jayson's going to have to become more craftier, better mid-range shooter, which he's already very skilled at, better three-point shooter, more adept at getting to the free throw line, more adept at using his size and using screens and using and he's not a guy who relies on pure athleticism. He's not a freakish athlete. He's a good athlete. But I just think little things like that are just going to have to improve. The mind game, like Kevin Durant. Like, if you look at guys in their second half of their careers, Dwayne Wade's and guys, Carmelo, like, they were able to find ways to get their shot off that wasn't necessarily either, athleticism or jumping higher than the defender. And I think that's what Jayson is going to have to do. This is going to be a new challenge for him, and he wants to be considered one of the all-time greats. He wants to be considered one of the greatest Celtic of all time. Well, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to change your game up when the athleticism starts to not fail you, but it starts to slip. Now, will he be the same exact athlete as he is at post-Achilles? We'll have to see. I'm sure they'll take tests. I'm sure they'll do the jumping tests and the sprints test to see, okay, Jayson, this is what you timed at the year before the injury. This is your time. This is your vertical jump. This is your high jump. This is This is all of the long jump. This is all the little things that we're going to measure your athleticism on. Is that going to be comparable? I think it will be. It might not be the same, but I think Jayson's going to have to learn the idiosyncrasies of the game, spacing, how to get to certain spots. You look at a guy like a Jalen Brunson. He does not score from pure athleticism. He's not a pure athlete. He scores from craftiness. Learn and yeah, it might go overboard. The same with SGA, all the foul, what they call now foul baiting. But that dude has become a great player from the mind, from using your athleticism against you, doing the pump fake and getting you in the air and making contact, using angles. That's what Jayson is going to have to do. And that's what he does now. Jayson's a student of the game. It's going to have to be more, because if you look at the great players of our game, I look at Magic Johnson, 1991, leading the Lakers to the finals, right? Magic was 33 in comparison to Magic from 1984. There was the different guy. Magic was bigger. His body had grown. He weighed more. And it wasn't like it was muscle, but he was just a bigger guy. He couldn't do some of the things that he did in the 84 finals that he did in the 91 finals, right? If you look at guys, how they advance, and a guy we don't talk about a lot, Karl Malone, in the second half of his career became a great mid-range pick and pop guy, right? Better free throw shooter. He was all, we used to see young Karl Malone. That dude was built like a brick house, flying through the air. He was dunking. Karl Malone, say what you want about someone who's off the floor, but that dude on the floor, my goodness. He was a freak. And just some of the stuff he did. But in the second half of his career, he was a better mid-range shooter. He was a better free throw shooter. And that's what Jayson's going to have to do, advance his game to that next level of all the little things that doesn't involve athleticism. And I think he'll do that.
Yeah. And definitely Carmelo is a great example of that because, again, his game really evolved and he was already a really good player. And he came back in many respects even better as far as how he was, able to do more things offensively. Real quick shout out. For those of you who are listening to this show, we ask that you subscribe to the podcast, like and leave a review. And for those watching the show on CLNS, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the Celtics All Access YouTube channel, where you can find our show and a lot of other great Celtics content. And please make sure to turn on your notifications so you know the instant a new video drops. And one of the main reasons why we're able to provide this content so steadily is because of our good friends, folks like Prize Picks. Again, cash in on the basketball playoffs with Prize Picks. Don't miss your last chance to add your favorite players from the court to your Prize Picks lineup, whether it's points, rebounds, assists. Take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today. Turn your playoff hot takes into tickets to basketball's championship series. Prize Picks will, again, don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond as well in your Prize Picks lineup. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today. And yes, you can do a little bit of sports mangling there where you've got your baseball and your basketball favorites that you can do more or less on. So how do you get in? It's very, 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 very simple. Prize Picks, you download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, you download the app, use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. As Gary and I talked about earlier, this is a kind of a weird time for both of us because we're so used to having games to cover, specifically Celtics games to cover. But I wanted us to just do a quick drive-by through the state of the playoffs right now. And if you're an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, you have been the best team record-wise all season long pretty much. And so for you, being up 2-1 in your series against the Minnesota Timberwolves, yeah, that's kind of what you expect to be. 3 games, 2 at your crib, 1 at theirs, up 2-1. However, the bad news, that 1 loss, y'all didn't just lose. Y'all got that ass spankety spanked badly. I believe it was 42 points or some insane number like that. Gary, when you think about this series and you think about game 3, what the hell happened? If you're a Thunder fan, like in that game, like how do you go from being as dominant as they were in the first two games to getting not just beaten but just absolutely thrashed in your first road game in this series?
Yeah, I think that says a little something about the maturity of the Thunder is going in there thinking we got a 2-0 lead. We looked very impressive in the first two wins. It wasn't really close. Minnesota's frustrated, they're shook, and we should take this series pretty easily. And Minnesota punched first. I think when I looked, it was up there up like 34-15, and then ended up winning by 143-101. So you don't want to have a game where you just don't compete. And that was the case for Oklahoma City. So now we'll see what Oklahoma City has, because they're playing for as much desperation as Minnesota. Because to be honest with you, you don't want to go back to Oklahoma City tied at 2, and then it's a 3-game series and anything can happen. You want to always keep command of the series and go up 3-1. So as much as it's a big game for Minnesota, obviously you want to even the series, and you know you got to get a game in Oklahoma City, but you got to even the series first. If you're Oklahoma City, you want to prove that you're the number one team in the league. You want to prove that you're the best in the West. And they proved in those first two games, and not showing up. That's a lot. That says a lot about their maybe lack thereof of maturity. And they got to grow up a little bit over the next 48 hours and figure out how to keep the game close and not get blown out. You get it. Minnesota was going to play well. Guys like Terrence Shannon, who we hadn't heard much about.
I know, right?
Had a big game, and Ant-Man was going to be big, and Gobert and Randall and all those other guys, but you had to expect that. So it's up to you, to Oklahoma City, to take that in and be like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to counter that. And we're going to keep it close, and we're going to steal one at the end, because you're fighting Minnesota and the crowd and everything, all the elements. But for them not to show up like that, I think that's pretty discouraging. So I think this says a lot about Oklahoma City's ability. Remember, they got taken to 7 by Denver, and Denver was, Aaron Gordon with the hamstring. Michael Porter Jr. had the shoulder injury. This was not a fully healthy, completely number one, seed type of Denver Nuggets team. This was a team that's good, but probably shouldn't have pushed that series of 7 games. Yeah. So if you're Oklahoma City, you got to figure out, okay, do we want this series to go 7, or do we want to end this in 4, 5, or 6? And so I think it's just as big of a game for the Thunder on Monday night as it is for the Timberwolves.
Yeah, I mean it's a big game from in the vacuum of this season, and obviously the success they had and the wins and the top seed and all that, and it just makes sense that the goal clearly is to win a championship. But one of the things that, Gary, I think gets lost in the conversation about the Oklahoma City Thunder, and I'm not sure exactly why. It may very well be just because of their market size, or there may be some other factors. But here's the thing: I look at Sam Presti. And when you look at the body of work, it's impressive. They win a lot of games. They get a lot of draft picks, and they've got the potential to really build themselves into a dynasty. But here's the thing. You got to win one championship before you can start talking realistically about a dynasty. And maybe it's just me. But it feels as though Sam Presti has kind of gotten a pass for being good but not great, especially when you start looking at the talent that he has had on that roster. We're talking Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Paul George, Chris Paul. You start going through the Hall of Famers that he has brought to OKC in the 18. He's been in the position since 2007. He's had at least, I'd say, double-digit Hall of Famers. Probably more Hall of Famers he has had that he's been able to bring there than almost any other team in the NBA. And they have basically their claim to fame: one trip to the NBA Finals. That's it. How much pressure, if any, do you think Sam Presti is feeling? And if he's not feeling any, Gary, why is that?
Yeah, I think Oklahoma City is a franchise since they moved from Seattle that has been mostly overlooked in terms of like pressure to win because they kind of had to start over. I was in Seattle when Presti took the job as Sonic's general manager, and the first thing he did was trade Ray Allen, and then he eventually traded Rashard Lewis. He got he made some very astute deals He drafted Russell Westbrook after drafting Kevin Durant, and then he drafted we don't talk about the great James Harden, our friend James Harden, and they were all on the team in that 2012 team that went to the finals along with acquiring Perk or whatever. But I think that there's always been kind of a how do I put this? I think the Thunder have been a team that there's always been apparently somebody better. Like, and there was always been maybe the Lakers were going to be better. It was going to be maybe San Antonio in the mid 2010s or Phoenix.
Kind of like what Utah went through with Stockton Malone.
Yeah, like there was always, well, the Thunder should be the favorites, but and then the Warriors came along. And I think what kind of took the attention away from the Thunder was the emergence of the Warriors, right? Because the Thunder was supposed to be the Warriors. Remember, they went to the championship finals in 2012. They lost it. They won the first game. I remember they ran the Heat off the floor in game one. Everybody was like, oh my God, they're going to sweep the, as much as they got LeBron, Bosh, and Wade, like the athleticism isn't even close. Like they're going to run, and the Thunder did not win another game. They lost in 5. And because, and everyone's, they're too young. Okay, they're going to get it back. Then all of a sudden, in 13, he lost to the Spurs. The Spurs came along with Kawhi and those guys, and aging Duncan, and, Ginobili and Parker. And so that kind of postponed it. Then the Warriors came and won it, in 15, right? And then all of a sudden it was like Russell and West started having beef, and they had to trade James Harden because they thought a big would be more valuable, so they kept Serge Ibaka and traded James Harden. And they didn't get much for James Harden. They got Perry Jones, who who never I thought would be a good pro, and
I thought he was going to be so much better than he was.
Tyler, oh boy, the kid from UConn with the sleepy eyes, who played on the championship team. He recently retired. He played like 10 or 12 years in the league, but was never an all-star. Those are the two guys that they got that were supposed to work out for them, and it didn't. So they basically gave away Harden for nothing. And to me, that's what happened. Then all of a sudden the beef between KD and Russ happened, and then they lost. And I just think that what turned the franchise, that 2016 loss to the Warriors and blowing that 3-1 lead.
Were you talking about Jeremy Lamb?
I said Tyler. Jeremy Lamb.
Okay.
Yes, Jeremy Lamb. And so to me, it was not getting enough. It was not getting enough for because they got traded Oklahoma City with the Houston Rockets for Jeremy Lamb, Kevin Martin, and a first-round pick, Steven Adams.
Yeah.
And I remember that I thought they got Perry Jones in that pick too, or they ended up something happened with they got Perry Jones, and those guys are all supposed to like help out, but it never really worked out. However, I think the whole losing KD gave Presti some grace years. And remember, they've over the last several years, they've rebuilt. They took a bunch of draft picks. They took the Kemba contract. They had Al Horford for a minute. They had Chris Paul. Like they became like the check cashing place for all of the they would cash your check. If the check was, hey, this might not be a good check, Oklahoma City would cash it. Here you go. Oklahoma City took everybody's bad deals.
Damn.
They took everybody. There was an NBA check cashing place, right?
Yeah.
And that helped them transform. And then they made that huge trade to move Paul George, because remember they went. Paul George was there. Then they traded him to the Clippers to get Shea. And I think now the pressure's on. I think the first years he's gotten a pass because of the emergence of the Spurs. Then the Warriors, remember, nobody really thought the Warriors were going to come along and do this. I mean, remember, Mark Jackson, they were a good young team, but nobody thought Steph, Clay, and Draymond are all going to work out like that. Then they got the veterans, Iguodala, Sean Livingston, like that. Just, I don't say it happened, but it sort of did just kind of happen.
Yeah.
And then KD comes, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh man, so with the salaries all working out. So I just think the Thunder, because of their market size, maybe the lack of expectation, especially after KD left, had the expectations have lessened. But you're right. Like, if there's not a year, it's this year. You're the number one seed. The other three teams in the playoffs are the third seed, the fourth seed, and the sixth seed. So the Thunder should be favored to win the finals. If they get past the Timberwolves, and they play the Knicks or the Pacers, they're going to be favored in that series.
Yeah.
So you're right, Sherrod. It should be this year. If it's not this year, I don't know what to say. Like, you can run it back, and they're young, and they've all Jalen Williams and SGA and Holmgren, but you gotta ask. And there's going to be other teams next year that are going to be better.
Yep.
That are going to be held. The Lakers are going to figure something out. The Clippers might figure, like, there's going to be teams coming after what they have. So if you're like it's like the Celtics. You got to get one, because of the Celtics. The one thing that makes their hard landing this year easier is they won last year.
Yep.
If they had not won last year, there would be all types of blow this team up, trade Jaylen. Now there's a little bit of patience. You got a chip under your belt. With Oklahoma, you got to figure, like, the pressure is all on them because they're the most talented, they're the deepest, they got the most assets, they got the best player, and they got another top 15 player, maybe, depends on how you look at Jalen Williams, Holmgren, a former number 2 overall pick. I mean, they got, and they've drafted well, guys like Cason Wallace, dudes who came out of nowhere like Aaron Wiggins. Like, you look at, they signed Hardenstein. Like, this is the team designed to win a championship. Like, you're right, Sherrod. If they don't do it, all the pressure goes on Sam Presti, because essentially this is what you did all this for. Like Bill Parcells said, this is why you lift all them weights, like to win a championship, to get through, to win the tournament, not come close. And if it doesn't happen this year, that's why I said that game 4 is big for Oklahoma City, because you do not want to go 7 with Ant-Man and those guys having won a game 7 on the road last year in Denver as they did, and you're the team that hasn't been in that situation before.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, and to me, it's fascinating how, OKC is just, even though they're obviously in control of the series, you don't feel like they have a firm grip on the series, because it literally at this point takes one off night in game 4 and everything changes in a major way. As you pointed out, Gary, you talked about the Thunder adding Isaiah Hardenstein to the lineup this year. One of the bigger offseason moves they made. And then you look out here in the Eastern Conference, you got the Knicks and the Pacers. And, the Knicks get a lot of credit for what they were able to do as far as getting Karl Anthony Towns. Obviously, they gave up a lot to get Mikal Bridges, and that seems to have paid off in helping get them to where they are now. But one of the low-key transactions that happened, not this offseason, but it happened in the last couple of years, that's paying major dividends in that series, is our good friend Aaron Nesmith, who, I mean, he has been maybe the wildest of wild cards in the fact that the Pacers are up 2-0. I know Halliburton has made some big shots, and Miles Turner has done some really great things, but the Pacers don't win game 1 without Aaron Nesmith having this out-of-body basketball experience. They just don't do it. And it's always revisionist history whenever a guy like that is doing great things at another team and they were traded from a previous team. But what's your take on the idea that maybe the Celtics gave up too soon on Aaron Nesmith? Now, mind you, they did get Malcolm Brogdon in return for that. And mind you, Malcolm got 6th man of the year, the one year he was in Boston. So it's not like they traded him and got a buster in return. But still, that being said, do you think they gave up too soon on Nesmith?
That's a tough question. That's very much Monday morning quarterbacking. I mean, we saw Aaron his first 2 years in Boston, and he wasn't a very good shooter, and he played hard. I mean, that dude played hard as hell, right? Like,
your nickname is Crash. That says it all, right
he
there.
played like his hair was on fire. And what has happened is Aaron developed into just a more mature player. Like Aaron's a lot like a lot of kids that come into the league. He ain't ready. He wasn't ready. Right. He should have stayed his ass at Vanderbilt. He wasn't ready. But if you look, by the time he's 25 years old, like look at his 3-point numbers, okay? So because remember, he only played a total of 98 games for the Celtics. 98. Okay? Over 2 years. He shot 27% from three in his second year, averaged 3.8 points. That was, obviously the NBA Finals year under Ime. He only played 11 minutes a game. He did not show that. You know what he shot this year? 43% from three.
Right.
Like 27 to 43%. He's become a starter in Indiana, starting most of the games. He's always been physically pretty imposing. Like even when he came into the league, Aaron had a good NBA body. It's gotten better. Mm-hmm. He's more mature. And he's found his role. He's found his niche. Would that have happened in Boston behind Tatum and Brown? Like what would have happened if they didn't get Brogdon? We don't know. Because honestly, in the Brogdon situation, it worked out well in the regular season. And then Brogdon had that mysterious elbow injury and it crashed in the playoffs, where Brogdon was not a good player in the playoffs. Right. And that's the unfortunate part of, like, you could say, well, they gave away Malcolm Brogdon, or they got him. Brogdon was very good during the regular season. In the playoffs, I'll read his numbers. He wasn't terrible. He averaged 11.9 points, shot 38% from three, 41% from the field. But remember that Miami series, he was hurt. Mm-hmm. He could barely get the ball to the rim. It just did not work out. And obviously they lost in Game 7. That was a really, Joe's first year was just a really bizarro year. Just that whole thing, just bizarro. Just Joe taking over for Ime, throwing in all these new parts, Malcolm, the last year of Marcus Smart. I mean, it was strange. And then, Malcolm probably not feeling like he was a starter, but instead he was coming off the bench and not wanting to say anything. And then Malcolm not wanting to treat his elbow injury with surgery. And now, I mean, no offense to Malcolm Brogdon, but since then he has done little. Yeah. I mean, that year in Portland, he played 39 games, mostly hurt. Last year in Washington, he played 24 games. So he has played 63 games since leaving Boston after playing 67. And he's a guy who's just completely banged up all the time now. He's just occupying a roster spot. He shot 28% from three last year. Like, Malcolm is on the back nine. And I'm not saying he's done, but I don't know. It looks like he's close to being done, right? So for me, it's revisionist history to say that you should have kept Nesmith. But it's not fun to watch if you're a Celtic fan. That dude grow into exactly what the Celtics, athletic wing who can defend. But again, you used Malcolm Brogdon to get Drew Holiday.
Right.
So Malcolm's contract got you a championship. Yep. So you can't regret it at all because he got you a title.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think we all look at Aaron and go, damn, like that's the guy the Celtics thought they were drafting. A top 3-point shooter, a good defender, a guy of a good athlete. a guy who can get it done, a fearless guy with no, who ain't going to back down. And so extremely valuable for Indiana. Like that's a guy that he's a glue guy, right? And that's unfortunately what the Celtics gave up. He blossomed in that situation. He blossomed playing with a bunch of other young guys like Halliburton and Turner and Nembhard and Obi Toppin and those guys who are all around the same age, right? All probably played in AAU together and on the McDonald's All-American team. So that's a closeness is there. Where Nesmith, best case scenario, would have been number 4, like if they kept him.
Yeah.
Jason, Jaylen, and Derek, right? Maybe the number 4 guy, which he kind of is in Indiana, but it's just it's one of those things. I think we're all happy for him because Aaron's a good kid.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you talking to your main man, your dude, Jerry Stackhouse about him, who coached him at Vanderbilt.
Yep.
And Jerry, I think Jerry said, he's going to be a ball player. I just think like a lot of these kids, he came out too damn early. So the Celtics didn't get the best of him. They got the kid who was trying to find himself and trying to grow. And that's hard. It's hard to stick with these young guys. And some of them turn into stars. Others become just players. I mean, others, I was looking at a guy years ago. Recently, I saw his name came up. Like it might have been on the Basketball Reference website. Sean Williams played at Memphis. One and done.
Yeah, 6'9".
6'9". Oh, wing, could shoot threes. Played on that team with Michael, Chris Douglas Roberts, and Derrick Rose, the one that blew that championship to Kansas and couldn't hit free throws and let the game go into overtime. And then Mario Chalmers did his thing. And just came out, was a one and done. And I was like, oh, this dude's going to be just was a guy. Just a guy. And that's what you have. That's the hard thing about these drafts. Some of these guys, Sherrod, as you've seen, your friend, name mentioned Rodney White.
I was thinking of Gary. I was gonna invoke Rodney White's name.
White,
the best player from UNC Charlotte behind Cedric Maxwell.
Just a guy. And so sometimes you take guys who are just a guy, and unfortunately, it doesn't work. But fortunately for Aaron, it worked. He's worked his butt off to become a great player. I think people are happy for him. And you know what? It got the Celtics a chip. Like Brogdon led that contract because you're not getting Drew Holiday with Aaron Nesmith, right? You're just not. Brogdon's contract led to Drew Holiday, which got you a chip.
Yeah, and there's no denying that. And just to add a little more context to my boy Rodney White, because I was so wrong about that dude, man. I was so damn wrong. Because here's the thing, Gary. This is what most people don't realize. When Rodney White came and worked out for the Detroit Pistons, this is the three-man crew they had working out. Him, Richard Jefferson, and some dude named Joe Johnson. And everyone I talked to, Gary, everyone I talked to who was a witness at a workout said Rodney White was the best player.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Easily. And clearly, when you look at the career trajectory for all three of those players, he literally was easily the worst of those three. To me, the turning point when I knew that this was probably not going to work out was when Rodney got hurt during warm-ups at Memphis. He went up for a dunk, and one of those real funky dunks, and came down funky, and he was out for like a couple games. But you know what happened? When he went out, guess who started getting more run? Corliss Williamson.
Oh, your man.
My main man. I got my guy on the floor. My man, he did his damn thing. And we are going to do our damn thing. Before we get out of here, though, for those of you who listen to the show, we ask that you subscribe to the podcast, like and leave a review. And for those watching the show on CLNS, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to CLNS Media and Celtics All Access YouTube channel, where you can find our show and lots of other really great Celtics content. And while you're here, show a little love to our folks at Prize Picks, whose support allows us to keep the Big Three podcast up and running. And don't forget to turn on those notifications so you know the instant a new video drops. Any parting words for the people, Gary, before we get out of here?
Should be an interesting offseason. I telling the fans, I know it's tough times right now in terms of the Celtics not playing, but there's going to be some things going on. The draft is in a month. There's going to be, we'll see what happens with the futures of guys like Kevin Durant and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Those kind of moves could affect the Celtics, and it should be an interesting summer, and you're going to get some new players, and I think some players to be excited about. I think, I don't think next year is just going to be a wash. I think it's going to be different without Jayson Tatum, but I think that you can bring in some guys, get a longer looks at guys like Baylor Shireman. Let's see what J.D. Davidson has in his arsenal, and let's see what the Celtics can do, because the whole thing is now finding guys that are going to help you for the long term. And that process, although it might be a little bit painful at times, should be interesting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Certainly lots going on with the Boston Celtics this offseason. And we at the Big Three NBA Podcast are going to be there for all of the smoke. For Gary Washburn, I'm Sherrod Blakely, and this is the Big Three NBA Podcast. We out.